So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Eazy Conversations. Thanks a lot to everyone who listened to the last episode featuring the homie Matt and I. Hope you enjoyed listening to us rank all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies and enjoyed our analysis on each of those movies. So now for episode 113 of Eazy Conversations, I'm extremely excited, of course, to be back in the studio virtually with the homie Matt. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, everybody? Hope you're having a great time right now. Very excited for tonight's episode because we have one of my favorite guests that's been on multiple times, Mount Rushmore guest. And we're doing a list format again, which I love. So, Eric, why don't you introduce our guest?
Absolutely. Fan favorite making.
Topic.
Absolutely. Fan favorite making his fourth appearance on the program. You've known him for a bunch of different topics on here, ranging from life to Lord of the Rings to hockey, and now a different topic and back to movies, but in a different vein. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, the homie Justin Machtinger. Say what's up to the people.
What's going on, guys? Thanks again for inviting me, Eric and Matt. Super happy to be on. And, of course, naturally, you got to make a hockey reference. Episode 113, it looks like we got, growing up, both our captain's numbers thrown in there. You got number 11, Mr. Booman himself, Daniel Alfredsson, and you got lucky 13, the greatest Swedish hockey player of all time, one Mats Sundin.
It's a hot take. Yeah, I was wondering where you were going with that. Honestly, I didn't know 113. I think was that like a 11-3 reference, but I like the two melding of the numbers together. I like that. So that's why it made sense to have you on for this one. But I'm sure if we had you on for 112 or 14, there would have been another hockey reference somehow that makes its way in there too. So happy to have you on again, man. And yeah, like Matt said, for this one we're going to be doing a list episode, two lists actually, kind of foils to each other. So right now we're kind of in a climate where there have been a lot of movie sequels out these days, both good and bad. And now we're going to actually be listing off 5 of our favorite and least favorite, so best and worst sequel movies of all time. Now, like I said, what kind of spawned this idea was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Avatar Way of Water, Top Gun Maverick, if you will, as some very strong sequels that have been released in the last few years. And we got the next Indiana Jones movie coming out. What else is there? I'm sure I'm forgetting a ton of stuff there, but you get the point. So we're 2 lists, 5 movies in each one. We're going to go back and forth just one at a time, just say one each. We're going to start off with the worst movies, I think, to get the bad stuff out of the way, and then end on a note of positivity. Although for me, I feel like I'm looking at my worst movies. I'm going to have a blast talking about these movies, just ripping them to shreds. I love doing that myself. And yeah, so Justin, guest of honor, I can throw it out to you first. You want to kick us off for the movie on your worst 5 sequels of all time?
Okay, now this one I think might be a rather controversial one because I feel like it was a pretty well-received movie overall, and I think a lot of people are quite familiar with the universe that it falls in, maybe to drop a hint. But I'm going to start off my list with Thor Ragnarok. Now, I know, quite a bombshell to drop off on, but hear me out. See, what I'm thinking of, it was a great movie, but when you really boil it down, so you have Thor, who his father dies, and he basically finds out he has this sister who he never knew even existed. And throughout the whole movie, she held up, played by Cate Blanchett, who was absolutely fantastic in the role. Basically, the whole movie, he's going through the struggle of facing what basically ends up being this unstoppable beast in his sister, the goddess of death. So don't exactly want to make that an easy boss to face. And throughout the movie, he keeps getting beaten by her, and eventually it's not even him who defeats her. And so I'm trying to think, as lovely of a movie as it was, this is right before, I believe Endgame and before some of the bigger Avengers movies. And I sort of attack it from the view of, okay, this whole movie, Thor was kind of made to look like a chump, and the dude's demigod. Like the whole point and premise of it's like, oh man, she broke my hammer. Like if only I had my hammer, then I'd be able to defeat her. and he had to have like a talk with his father, who was passed away at this point. But it's like, what are you, Thor, god of hammers? The hammer was like just a device like to help control your power. Release it. And then it shows a scene where he's releasing it, and even still, he wasn't the one who really defeated her sort of one-on-one. And I'm thinking, in terms of Thor, he's one of the most powerful Avengers. So really, like, how much of a role did that really play in the overall grand scheme of, okay, here's a separate Thor movie, and together here's how he eventually gets into his role into the next big Avengers movie. But what are your guys' thoughts on that in terms of my explanation?
Okay, I have to jump in on this right away. So just coming off our last episode where we ranked Marvel movies, I have Thor Ragnarok top 5 Marvel movies. So I was completely shocked. And I'm still shocked. I don't even know what to say right now. And honestly, I had to stop thinking about my reaction and listen to your points as to why Ragnarok is not a good sequel and take it all in. I see a lot of the points you're saying. I'm going to say I completely disagree with all of them, honestly, because I hold that movie very dearly. I think it's a great movie, but I agree with you made a lot of good points, I will say, in how the resolution of the movie happened, and that they ended up getting that the beast thing, satanic thing to kill or destroy the planet Asgard and all that. But I think that movie, and honestly, we could be here all night if we want to debate this movie, but I'll just say, I think that movie was essential for Thor's development to, well, first of all, abandon or leave his home, right? His home is destroyed, but he finds out that, home is not a place, it's the people, it's who you have around you. It's a culture that, while your planet may have been destroyed, that needed to happen for Thor. And his whole identity has always been tied to Asgard and becoming king and all that, and now with that planet being destroyed, he's able to understand a new meaning of what it means to be a ruler to people, and a better understanding of himself. His whole trilogy is kind of about self-acceptance and understanding of what he's supposed to be. That's always been his thing, is the pressure of becoming the next king of Asgard. So I don't know, development of his powers. I think the action scenes are fantastic in that movie. And honestly, I've talked about that movie a lot in literally the last episode, so I don't want to repeat myself too much there. But man, I'm just shocked. And honestly, I respect your opinion though. These are subjective takes. I'm not here to convince you otherwise. That's fine. Just surprised is all I'll say. Matt, I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, I'm just very surprised too. I'll keep it short. If you think Thor Ragnarok is bad, you could have 10, 20 other Marvel movies below it for bad sequels. But again, it's just our opinion, and yeah. I'm going to have some takes later on, and you guys might think I'm crazy too, or be like, why are you into those movies? But no, it's very surprising, so no.
Yeah, honestly,
I disagree, that's all.
Oh, no, I was honestly struggling for a few, and it's probably one of those movies I should go back and might even change my opinion, but I think... honestly, I was going through certain ones on the list, and I'm like, okay, this one might be a bit controversial, but there are some parts of the movie I think maybe either confused on or wasn't a huge fan on. Also, all the stuff with Jeff Goldblum, I know he's a crazy cat, but a lot of those scenes too, I'm like, where's this going to? Where is this going to factor into the end of it? And I mean, Eric, I know you sort of touched on it. He has to go through these struggles of maybe not being sort of the demigod that he is, and being the apex sort of, okay, who's next? Line him up, I'll knock him down. It shows maybe, dare I say, a more human side to Thor, and that he's not sort of the end all be all Avenger, because you can, I guess, argue all the Avengers movies are pointless, because it's why didn't he just
right, exactly,
bring Mjolnir and just wreck everyone,
exactly.
sort of thing, So he's not bigger than any one individual Avenger.
Exactly. I respect that. Honestly, I respect the take. It's because Ragnarok is mostly universally loved as a sequel. So I respect it. Great way to kick off our list, Matt. I don't know. Do you want to go next and kick us off here and another take? Yeah.
I'm going to go next, and I propose, I think I'll just read my 5 movies all in one shot. I feel like we're gonna have more to say on the best sequels, and I just want to get like this over with. I don't know if you guys are cool with that. I'll say my 5 movies, and you guys can discuss them. My 5 movies are all similar. They're all like unnecessary sequels to franchises or trilogies. You know, they went too far. So you cool, Eric? If I read them 5 in a row?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. You got Alien 3, Indiana Jones 4, Die Hard number 5, Hangover Part 3, and Godfather Part 3. All super unnecessary, trying to make money. None of these movies are good. They're just trying to like cash in on the franchise and of the success of the first 2 in the franchises. Yeah, that's all I got to say on those movies. They're horrible. Not even like Thor Ragnarok's 100 times better than any of these movies. That's why I'm surprised to see like movies like the caliber of Thor Ragnarok on your list, Justin. But yeah, that's Alien 3, Indiana Jones 4, Die Hard 5, Hangover 3, and Godfather Part 3.
Justin, any thoughts on those ones?
I do actually have one of those movies on my list. I can get to that later, but the rest of those movies, honestly, don't really have too much to add. Just because I know I'm a little bit of one of those people you gotta sit down to force to watch movies. So a bunch of them actually I haven't seen, or I've just seen clips here and there. I will at least add on that. They're definitely not the movies that when you say, oh, like The Hangover, oh, Godfather, oh, Alien, those I feel like are definitely not the ones that people think, oh yeah, let's go to Alien 3, 100% best one in the series, no doubt about that. Like, there's a reason why I think when you get into the higher numbers, there is more of that chance that people and your audience look at it as nothing but a cash grab, which, hey, if there's money to make, then go nuts on it. But I think at a certain point, I think especially with, say, Alien, like how many times can you really sort of tell the same story where maybe there's a bit of those logic loopholes where it's like, why do we keep sending these people into space when there's this unstoppable creature hunting our men and women down and, you know, completely killing them with like not a trace of them left? So I think it's a bit of a delicate balance where, especially where you're a franchise like The Godfather, regarded as the best couple of the best movies of all time. Yeah. And then you have the Godfather that you mentioned, and you throw that in there, and then does it sort of bring the overall movie franchise down when you try to, you know, go back to that cash cow and try to milk it one more time? So it's really that delicate balance, and I think you give some really great points. Unfortunately, I can't really talk too specifically on those, but I know, Matt, you're the movie connoisseur here, so I feel like when you have very good points to bring up there. I trust your opinions on those.
Yeah, of the ones you listened, Justin, a lot of great points, honestly, as to like exactly. That was the kind of interesting idea that I thought about sequels in general, was like there's a successful first entry, and then the studio want to cash in on that cash cow and milk it to its demise, basically, when there's nothing left to squeeze. And like oftentimes, like the product is horrible at the end, which like I haven't seen a lot of those movies actually, Matt. Like I've seen Hangover 3 and I believe Indiana Jones, the fourth one, the Crystal Skull, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Both horrible movies, honestly. Like I mean, honestly though, I will say Kingdom of the Crystal Skull back in the day, I did not have an issue with at the time. Then I re-saw it maybe 5 years on the road. I'm like, yeah, this isn't as good. But when I saw it at the time, I had no issue with it. And actually, I will say Hangover 3, I didn't mind as much too the first time. Then I saw it again. I'm like, yeah, this is horrible. Like, especially coming off, in my opinion, Hangover 2 is worse than 3. And funnily enough, is on my list. Hangover 2 is one of the worst sequels of all time. That's one of the ones I have. And that's a prime example. I look at Hangover as like that movie that was out of nowhere, this massive hit, cult classic, like we need to make more of these. And then the tropes, like they just get rinse and repeat. It doesn't hit the same. They also try to elevate on a lot of the things that worked well, but it just doesn't work. Whereas interestingly, in a franchise like a John Wick, for example, where like it's known for like this extreme action and all that, and they keep upping it, it does work. So sometimes you can have it where it works, and other times you don't. Like there's no rhyme or reason. It just, it is what it is. But yeah, good picks, honestly. Godfather 3 I've heard to stay far away from, and I will do so, honestly. And like you said, Justin, like it kind of ruins that trilogy. Where like imagine if they kind of ended on like a pretty good note, like solid. You look at that as probably one of the best trilogies of all time, but because the general consensus is it's bad, no one even treats it like a trilogy pretty much. It's like, yeah, one and two are
just
great.
to add on to like the Godfather, I believe, isn't Godfather 2 regarded as the best movie of all time by a lot of critics, and it's at that point you're a victim of your own success. Like, again, going back, I guess, to the cash cow analogy, like, sure, there's money to be made, but overall, does that maybe go back to like the producers and the director and the actors? Do they sort of feel a sense of like, yeah, this was good, but maybe we shouldn't have done number 3, like we made extra money, but at what cost, but yeah. I guess teach their own, and
maybe
money talks.
Maybe that's it. They don't even like, they're probably like deep down, and maybe they've had those sit downs where like, yeah, like that wasn't the right call, but they made a ton of money, so at the end of the day, like they can justify it that way. I don't know. And just quickly, that's another point too that made me think of like the worst sequels. Oftentimes when a franchise adds a movie in its franchise years after the first one is released, it's normally going to be a bad movie. And I want to say Godfather 3 came out 15 years after Godfather 2, if not more. So normally if there's a lot of time that's passed and you have 2 great movies, or just one, for example, don't go back to it. Like Dodgeball 2, for example, I'm super worried about. Like I have the lowest of expectations for that movie. Cult classic. Like why are we even going there? I don't know.
I forgot about that, and I'm like, Dodgeball 2, wait a second, people. The majority of the audience that liked that, that was what, like when they were 15 years or so younger, give or take.
20. It's 2004, so.
Oh boy. Ugh.
And that was like a different era of comedy too, right? So I don't know what they're gonna do in this one, but yeah, kind of like Matt. I guess I'll just go off and list. Like I named one of them there. I'll list my other 4. And for my worst movies, I only went actually, funnily enough, or by coincidence, whatever, with like direct sequels. So number 2s in other franchises. So I went with Hangover 2, Jurassic World: The Fallen Kingdom. Horrible movie, like one of the worst in my opinion. I remember sitting there in theaters being disgusted at what I was watching. Like Jurassic World was a good movie in my opinion. That's actually a good example of coming back to a franchise much later and revitalizing it with you got Chris Pratt in his prime, like getting really to movie star status, cool visuals. But then Fallen Kingdom, that plot is just one of the worst ever. Where like the little girl, spoiler I guess if you care, ends up being like a dinosaur clone of some sort. I don't even know. Some weird stuff. I don't even remember, honestly. It was so bad. Fallen Kingdom, another example of coming back to a movie later. Anchorman 2, I hated this movie. Like this might be my controversial pick on these ones. Actually, no, my next one's controversial too, probably. But I did not like Anchorman 2. Like there are definitely moments where I laughed, but yeah, it fell flat completely for me. Like the scene where they had all the cameos, like there's the big fight scene in the park, and then all these different news stations show up, and you get like literally Kanye West is in the movie, Drake, I'm pretty sure. Those are the only 2 I really remember for some reason, but Jim Carrey. But it just went on for too long. It was funny at first, but it wasn't it. Indiana Jones Temple of Doom I was not a fan of. And this is probably also because as a kid this movie scared the shit out of me. So I think I look back at that as like, I loved Raiders of the Lost Ark, but Temple of Doom, and I've given this movie a ton of chances, I still just don't like it. I think it's a major step back from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and yeah, it's just not it. And then lastly, I don't think anyone's going to argue with me on this one. Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen. Horrible. Just a horrible movie, in my opinion. And honestly, I could have included a lot of the Transformers movies. Like, The ones with like Anthony all the ones with Mark Wahlberg essentially are brutal. Like just
Yeah.
he's like in his garage, like I think I found a transformer. Like what are we doing here? Like just horrible stuff.
Gotta sell those action figures, I guess. That's
Yeah.
what he was referring to, honestly.
Anyway, so yeah, those are mine. Hangover 2, Fallen Kingdom, Anchorman 2, Indiana Jones Temple of Doom, and Revenge of the Fallen. So funnily enough, Matt, we both had like a Hangover and an Indiana Jones movie in there. Yeah.
That's a great list. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead,
Matt,
Justin.
No, I was gonna say, Matt, you go with your comment, and then I'll quickly run through the remaining ones on my list too.
Okay, good list, Eric. They're all bad movies. No, those are solid picks. I have nothing to say. I don't like any of those movies. So, good job. What do you got, Justin, for us?
For my remaining list, so I have a bit of a variety here, at least what I think is variety. So I said Thor Ragnarok, controversial as that is. I also have Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. That's the one without Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom. Mm-hmm. And that one, I remember watching it just on Netflix and remembering like everyone ripped it apart. So I sort of went in with an open mind. And that one I was like, okay, if this wasn't called Pirates of the Caribbean, fine movie. But the fact that you have Captain Jack Sparrow in it, nope, bad. Absolutely no correlation to the rest of them. Bombed. Totally could understand why it got as much hate as it did. Also, funny fact, I believe I remember reading something somewhere on I think a news article, or maybe even it was a comment section. But apparently the Spanish version of the movie kept the mermaid in it, her name, which I believe was Serena, and I believe I remember reading the comments or whatever. The Spanish crowd laughed because the scene basically is, hey, her name isn't Mermaid. And so someone asked her love interest what her name is, and he said Serena. But apparently that in Spanish means mermaid. So he's like, no, her name isn't Mermaid. It's Mermaid. So just awful bad if that's true. So enough said there. The next one on my list is Halloween Resurrection from 2002.
Oh.
I remember when we were locked in COVID, this was on during Halloween time, and that I was just absolutely butchered the character of Michael Myers. I believe Tyra Banks was in that movie, probably one of the most annoying characters ever, which the sad part of that was I think she was straight up just being herself. So say what you want about that, but just awful movie. I'll save the rest there. One here is Wall Street 2010. This is the one with Shia LaBeouf, actually. And this one, I remember watching, I was actually in high school. We went to watch it as part of like a business class field trip, but I think I was way too young to sort of understand some of the concepts in it. So maybe it requires a revisit, this movie, but was not a fan of that when I watched it. And then to add it up, or to end off, I should say, I have both The Hangover 2 and 3. I couldn't decide which one was worse. Like, I think we're all in agreement. Like the first Hangover, it seemed like just the perfect comedy. I think I remember it was the first movie I had ever seen just with a friend. So like that, it adds to sort of the aesthetic of how good that movie was. And then Hangover 2 and 3 was just didn't really even need it to be to exist. And no, it just did not whatsoever. Like Hangover, perfect movie. Why ruin it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen like Wall Street 2010. I can only imagine though that's a bad movie, I would guess. Like I feel like Wall Street is a good movie, I want to say, but then again, is that not one they revisited many years later and added Shia LaBeouf a la Kingdom of the Crystal Skull? So just anytime you're doing a late sequel with Shia, maybe that's not the move. Halloween I haven't seen. I mean The Hangovers. That's and Pirates of the Caribbean, Stranger Tides, horrible movie. I think I gave it a 0.5 star on Letterboxd, which is like a movie reviewing app. And I watched it in 2 sittings. It was brutal. Out of 5, they're not 10, but probably would still be that out of 10. That was a bad movie. Like, good list again, Justin. And like The Hangover again, like they just pushed everything too much. Like they ruined both the Leslie Chow and Alan characters. Like they just really pushed them to the extreme in really like the worst way possible.
Yeah. Yeah, great list, Justin. Halloween Resurrection, the worst in the franchise. They butcher every character. Wall Street, Money Never Sleeps. That's like the subtitle of the movie. Horrible. You're correct. And on Stranger Tides. The only good part of that movie is Penelope Cruz dressed as a pirate. That's the only part worth watching for me. But no, good list, Justin.
Yeah. Nice. Matt, do you want to kick us off then for best movies? Like
Sure.
We'll do one at a time for this, or did you want to do 5 or one at a time?
We can do one at a time if you want. I got more obscure picks, not gonna lie. I didn't want to go mainstream. I made a mainstream list and I completely erased it today, and I'm gonna pick 5 movies that are great sequels, but like not like what you think. Not gonna make any like online lists.
Okay.
But they're all great movies. Some of them you've heard of, but like maybe my first 3 picks are obscure. First one is George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead from 1978. So basically, in 1967, he invents the modern zombie, flesh-eating zombie with Night of the Living Dead. Super successful, great movie. But then he tops it with Dawn of the Dead, one of the best horror sequels of all time. Takes place in a mall during a zombie invasion. This movie's been imitated to death. It's been remade by Zack Snyder. It's a phenomenal zombie movie, super influential, great gore. First time where you see like guts getting ripped, like bodies getting ripped open and like eaten. Like it's very innovative. So Dawn of the Dead is my first sequel that is freaking phenomenal.
Nice. I haven't seen it. I did see it though, like as like a highly touted sequel. Like I was doing a bit of list review, just like remember some movies I've seen and get an idea of what I want to pick. And I did see it there, like on a lot of them. So, I mean, I gotta look at that as well. I think it's on Crave too, so I might have to throw that one in the mix then. Have you seen it, Justin?
Nice.
Haven't actually seen the original, but I feel like it's really hard to ignore the spin-offs. I think wasn't there even a British comedy movie called Shaun of the Dead that was basically just sort of a spoof of it? If so, like it really just goes to show you. Oh, good. It goes to show you just how not only how popular it was then, but like how it stood the test of time. And I think enough has to be said with all the remakes and spin-offs based on that. I think the success pretty much speaks for itself when you have all these different spoofs of horror and non-horror that relate back to it. So good choice, Matt.
Thank you.
I'll go next, Justin, and just mostly because like my pick now segues well from Matt's pick, and not for the reason you'd think. And when I was making my list, and we kind of talked about this, like I tried to steer clear from movies that are a part of like a series or a trilogy, more for movies that are like had one that was released and then spawns either successful or unsuccessful sequels, where the intention wasn't always to make like a trilogy. Whereas this movie that I'm gonna show now is a part of a trilogy, and I actually have the Blu-ray right next to me that I'm just gonna show you all. I don't know if you can see if you're watching on the YouTube. The movie I'm showing, if you're not watching, is Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. So I went because Dawn, I had to go back to back. I was actually going to save that one for my last pick. Love Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. I think it's an amazing movie, honestly. Like, a lot of people say War for the Planet of the Apes, the last one in the trilogy, is the best one. I completely disagree. Dawn is the best one for me. Caesar, I've been cited as saying one of the most compelling characters and protagonists of all time. Andy Serkis absolutely kills it in this role. If we ever did like a movie character protagonist like list or draft for heroes, you better believe Caesar is on that list for me. I'm taking him in the first round if possible. I just get so attached to the apes, and you like feel for them and the struggles that they're going through and like them establishing roles in their society, how intelligent they are. Like I do love the first one too, like to see them rise, like obviously it's in the title, and to increased awareness, intelligence, and then in the second one, like they're just integrated into like this world and the respect that Caesar has. Like he's someone I try to model myself after in like the workplace. You want to be a leader like Caesar, you know? So yeah, Koba also fantastic villain. Love the dynamic between them. Now I would want to watch this movie right now. I don't know what else to say. You kind of ditched James Franco from the first one. I like the human cast that they added in this one as well. I want to say the guy's name is Malcolm, but I don't know the actor's name. You got Kerry Washington in there, or not Kerry Washington. I forget her name. Anyways, she's really good. She's in the show The Americans. Anyways, yeah, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is my first pick.
Great movie, Eric. Great pick. Great movie. It's it's like a Shakespearean tragedy. The movie, like I remember the climax, epic. Like yeah, I've only seen it once. Loved it though. What do you think about it, Justin?
It's Kerry Russell.
Good choice. I think I remember. I can't even remember if I've seen the full movie or I feel like I've seen parts of it because it's just such an iconic title. Mm-hmm. Great points like you made, Eric. And I must say, I feel like Andy Serkis, find me a better actor who plays basically these characters that need to be brought to life with CGI and just sort of the extra acting involved when you yourself aren't in there, but you're playing this ape that is responsible for a whole tribe. Put yourself into that into those shoes, and I think Andy Serkis does a fantastic job. Correct me if I'm wrong, but was he not also one of our all-time favorite characters, Gollum, as well?
He was. Mm-hmm. Most certainly was.
Yeah, so, I mean, forget even any other roles. Just those two roles alone, I think, just shows you how protagonist, antagonist, he could do it all. And to do it in those sort of roles where it's not him physically involved, I think takes that extra skill, and it really brings out the good in that movie. And not to take it away from you guys, but I'll actually transition into my movie, which I'll readjust my list a little bit because my first one I'll list is actually War for the Planet of the Apes.
Hey, let's go.
Wow.
No way.
Now, this one I do remember. I did see it in theaters, and I believe my friend at the time who I went to see it, he's like, come on, man, let's go. I'm like, dude, I haven't seen either of the movies. He's like, dude, you just trust me. You just have to see it. If you have any questions, just whisper them to me. I'll try to fill you in. So I did go into the movie, risky business going into part 3 of a trilogy, kind of blind. But just in that one movie alone, I'm like, man, I need to go back and watch them and rewatch War for the Planet of the Apes again, because the tragedy involved, you really feel for Caesar. He leads a mission, comes back, and his wife and son have been murdered. Dude, absolutely filled with rage, eventually goes and sees the people who murdered his wife and son, and all of a sudden is then enslaved, and him and the rest of the apes are I feel like it's very similar, dare I say, to the Holocaust, where they're basically put in these camps, they're beaten, they're starved, they're forced to work and work and work, and if you slip up, bam, either you get taken out or you get whipped, and it's like get back in or else sort of thing. And the fact that he is able to have one-on-one conversations with Woody Harrelson's character, I forget the character's name, but how you don't just go out in a fit of rage, which did actually happen, and Woody Harrelson being a great villain in that movie is anger, always with the emotion, what do you think would have happened if you killed me? What would my men have done to your apes? And it's that really delicate balance of, the, dare I say, maybe human or ape side of, wanting to get revenge, but, putting every other ape's life at risk by doing that. You can really empathize with the feelings that everyone involved is in, and then towards the end of the movie to see just like the death and the tragedy, but then Caesar overcoming everything and leading them into a better life. And then I may have spoiled some of the movie, but extra spoiler, Caesar dies at the end. It's just like you feel so much for this character and for all the apes, and like all the pain and suffering to eventually get their freedom is pulls at the heartstrings for sure. And it's definitely the trilogy. I got to go back and watch them all just to really feel it all over again.
Yeah. No, great pick, man. Like, that's amazing that you had War on there, and I just bashed it before. I didn't actually bash it there, but like it was a great conclusion to that trilogy. And like your breakdown of it just now made me want to watch it again. Like, you nailed those quotes, by the way. Like, that was spot on. And I remember, like, I was gonna say after your breakdown of it, like, Woody Harrelson, amazing villain in that movie. You absolutely hate him in that role, but he makes sense. Like, he makes completely valid points. And Caesar, man, just the GOAT though. And then, like, I think his son Ash has a bigger role in that one, right? I don't know. I'll throw it on Matt. Like, thoughts?
It's a great conclusion to the trilogy. That's hard to do, actually. A lot of the threes and franchises are not good, so a worthy conclusion, closure for Caesar. Good pick, Justin. Am I going with my number 5 or Justin's?
We'll go like back to you, Matt. Just like keep looping back.
Okay. Might as well go with my other horror film. I might get a lot of eye rolls for this and like judgment, but you know what? I've seen this whole franchise, and I'm just gonna rip off the Band-Aid. The movie I'm talking about is Saw number 3.
Okay.
This movie has no right to be as good as it is, better than part 1 and 2. This movie is what caused it to become now a 10-film franchise, the 10th one coming out this year, actually. Number 3 is great. It's a great horror film. It's got story, gore, good acting, compelling, amazing twists. It's insane. I snuck into this movie when I was, like 13 or 14. No, I think I was a little older, 15. But anyways, great horror film. It's the reason why there's so many others is on the strength of part 3. It has set up a whole story that they continued in 4, 5, and 6. And 3, 4, 5, 6 for the Saw franchise is the meat of the franchise. It's the best part of it. It's why it's very rewatchable, the strength of those 4 middle films. But it all starts with Saw number 3. I'm not going to talk about the story because nobody gives a shit, but trust me, it's a really good movie. Just the way it's told and the interwoven like linear narratives. It's a really good movie, guys. Just want to shed light on, like, probably nobody knows this, but Saw 3 is actually a great horror film.
Okay. Justin?
No, I know all the Saw movies have actually been again on my list. It's one of those things where it's like I find a few available, but they're not. It's not like 1 or 2 or 3. But I think I've been told by my friends, if you're gonna, I guess, do what I did with the Planet of the Apes trilogy, Saw 3. If you're gonna just pick one at random, that's the one you want to start with because of all those reasons you just listed, Matt. I'm pretty sure Saw as well. It's like it's more maybe on the gore side than straight horror. So if you're someone who's trying to get into horror movies, would you recommend this movie?
Yeah, like Saw is basically the only reason it's a horror movie is because of the traps and the gore. It's a detective and catching a killer type of movie, just like 7 is. So, Saw is basically a super gory CSI episode. Well said, Justin.
So you would compare it to like a 7 kind of movie, because in my mind, like, whenever I think of this, I've never seen any of the Saw movies. In my mind, it's just like kind of they go like all out for the kills and maybe neglect other aspects in terms of like story or like good acting, for example. I might be completely off this. I'm just making assumptions here. But if you're saying there are more like powerful stories, good writing, good characters in there, good acting, like that's a game changer for me in terms of my misinterpretation of Saw and just going with what I've heard of like the over the top kills kind of thing.
Yeah, 3 has the best acting because it's got recognizable actors in it, and The other ones do become what you guys describe, all about the kills. And 3 has incredible set pieces with traps and super gory, gratuitous stuff. But it also has a cool, like, revenge plot and a good, like, a good hostage situation plot. I don't want to give away too, like,
Okay.
I'm not going to get into the story, but, like, it's the best one out of every Saw movie. It's super strong. It's solid. It's full of twists, like, really good twists, guys.
Okay.
Just want to shed some light on Saw 3 instead of, like, talking about all the generic sequels that you guys may or may not talk about, but I want to shed some light on Saw 3. But yeah, we can move on now.
Okay, well, now that actually would segue perfectly into my next one, because I'm going to go with a generic, well-known, and universally loved, I think, sequel, which would be, in my opinion, when I thought of, like, best sequels, like, this stood out to me immediately. A tight hour and a half running time, and in my opinion, better than the OG, which is a great movie in its own right. That would be Shrek 2. I think this is an amazing movie. Like, just good fun. Expands on the world of Shrek, which I love. Like, I love when a sequel can do that, right? Like, you take the world of the swamp and Lord Farquaad's empire and expand on that to far, far away. You get the parents, kind of like a Meet the Fockers situation there. Like, we got Fiona's parents in there. And they're amazing acting on their end as well. Like, they're hilarious. The humor hits in this one. You get Fairy Godmother, great villain. Prince Charming, just an absolute doorknob, but plays like a solid role as well. And especially when he's like impersonating Shrek and like trying to make Fiona believe that by taking the potion, like, this is what he looks like now. Like, has like a British accent now. It's just hilarious. There's really good, and then of course you also got Puss in Boots in there. Antonio Banderas kills it in that role. That's a solid 3-pack of Shrek, Donkey, and Puss, and that spawned a bunch of sequels and spin-offs in its own right as well. So Shrek 2, in my opinion, goes downhill from there. Like, I've only seen Shrek 3 the one time. I didn't really like it, and I haven't seen the other ones. I haven't seen any of the Puss in Boots movies, but I heard the last one that just dropped, I think last year, was pretty good actually, like The Last Wish or something like that. So, all that to say, Shrek 2, also amazing third act. Like, the I need a hero, that's just a classic scene. Fairy Godmother just busting the pipes out on the dance floor with the moves on the dance floor too. Electric action too, and yeah, it's just so good. I love Shrek 2. I'll open the floor up now for discussion.
Phenomenal pick. Spoiler alert, it's on my list, so I'll only be talking about 3 more. Shrek 2 is at the top of my list, actually.
Oh, nice.
I love that movie. I loved it, but then my girlfriend's one of her favorites, so she rewatches it constantly, and I loved it even more watching it a couple times in the last year. All the adult references for adults, perfect. Do you love it just as much, Justin?
I love it enough that spoiler, hey, it's on my list too. So, hey, the trifecta.
Nice.
I mean, both Shrek 1 and Shrek 2, I think, absolutely amazing. Shrek 3 definitely is a few bars on the bar graph down below, I would say. But I think with Shrek 2, it's like, okay, so here's this ogre who kind of like, just leave me alone, like no one likes me, so I'll just live in solitude. Finds this Princess Charming, love of his life, and it's like, okay, so now he's gonna go meet the parents, but like what can happen from that? And it's like, you know what, the journeys that he went on, the friends that he made as well, it's like it adds another onion layer, I guess, to the Shrek character. And it really, once again, maybe just goes to show you that there's more to Shrek than even the first movie presented. And I think Shrek 1 and Shrek 2 definitely, even like back as when we were kids, loved both of them, rewatched them a ton growing up. And I think it's either one of them is even one I would be like, if it's on TV or wherever, it'd be one that even now close to 30, I still would probably throw it up and watch it and just reminisce about the good old days when we would watch it as kids. So fantastic choice, both of you, if I do say so myself.
Round of applause all around. Shrek 1 or 2 though, like if you gotta choose, like me, I'm saying like for me, I think this is a movie that's elevated from the first one, which is already amazing, but I prefer 2 personally. What about you guys?
2.
2.
I know I put Shrek 2 on my list. I think I probably would have to go to the OG just because. But you can't go wrong. It's
No.
like pick your 2 favorite flavors of ice cream. Like
Exactly. Agreed.
yeah.
I just wanted to see like
Can't
which
go
way you
wrong.
guys were going with it. Very close. Like in saying that I like it more, it's like not by much, right? Like they're both amazing movies. So yeah. Justin, do you want to rip the next one?
Yeah, so I know we're all basically knocked down
Except for me,
an extra
but
one
yes.
just because we all had the same one there. So I'll actually kick it back horror style, and I know this was sort of kind of the same family of movies, but this I feel like is a remake, but done properly, and it's going to be Halloween, the 2018 version. Jamie Lee Curtis back involved, sort of back in charge. I believe it was a sort of remake, one of 3, and the other 2 weren't as good. But I feel like this version really did right the wrongs of movies such as Halloween Resurrection 2002. You know, it reintroduces the character of Michael Myers as he should have been when he was first debuted to everyone in 1978, which is the silent killer who, when he has you in your tracks, you will die. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, because you can't stop him. He cannot be killed. You will die, basically. And I think this movie actually puts a really good modern twist. Some of the scenes involved, I forget the character's name, but he thinks that that the Michael Myers is the granddaughter of Jamie Lee Curtis's character. Like that's her father in that. And then when he realizes, oh no, this guy means bad news, runs away, runs into this guy's backyard, and sort of takes like that modern technology of cameras if you have in your backyard, and when they detect motion, the light flashes. It really does such a good illustration of this character, Michael Myers hunting him down and eventually killing him in a very gory way. Just stuff like that, sort of redoing the wrongs of the past. I think this movie really got me back into watching horror and watching the Halloween movies. The following 2 movies didn't really get as good of reviews, but I think this movie really did right the wrongs of the past. What do you guys think if you've seen it?
Well, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen any of the Halloween movies, honestly.
Okay.
So it's tough for me to say. I know, like you just said, Justin, that the last few ones, like Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, were not that well received. But I did hear Halloween 2018 was solid, like the return to form with Jamie Lee Curtis. So, but no, I haven't seen it. I can't really say much on how it compares to the ones that came before it, right? So I'll pass it off to Matt on that one.
A very welcome and surprising pick, Justin. I love it. A sequel 40 years later in the story, because it is a sequel, really, to the original, and they retcon every single thing that came in between, which I love that they did that. Great. I really dug this movie. Actually, I went to the theater with my mom, and we both had a blast. Good kills, good characters. Sequels were a little disappointing, but this one was fresh and kind of it went exactly where I wanted to go with the shitty sequels, right? They didn't do any of that stuff, but this one went more realistic approach, I think. So good twists and turns too. Good pick. I had no idea this would you'd pick a horror movie, so I'm super happy. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah. When you said
I
horror,
got 2 more left.
Go for it.
Yeah, I have, because of Shrek 2, that eliminates one. So I have one's an obscure foreign film, and one's a pick that is pretty, not generic, but it's on a lot of lists online. I'm going to go with the foreign obscure one here. It's actually a French-Canadian movie from Quebec. It's from 2003. It's called The Barbarian Invasions. Winner of the Academy Award for Best Foreign Film in 2003 for Canada. It's a drama comedy, more on the drama side, and it's a sequel to a movie the director made 15 years before in 87 called The Decline of the American Empire. So The Barbarian Invasions is about a patriarch of a family. He's on his deathbed, like dying. He's in the hospital. Family rushes back. You got his estranged son, his ex-wife, all his buddies from like his teaching at the college days. And it's all about like little backstabs and like history resurfaces. It's like almost like a TV show now where like, you know, there's a lot of bad blood and like unresolved things that come to light. And there's a lot of like cool dramatic moments. Super solid movie. It's in French, of course. The Barbarian Invasions, great movie. You recognize some actors, I think, in there, like some French Canadian actors. I recommend it to everyone. Really good drama. You don't have to see the first one. This is a sequel. It's all the same characters from the first movie, but just like 15 years later. So it helps to see the first one, but it's not essential. So that's my pick for my second last pick is The Barbarian Invasions.
Okay, I like that. While saying I'm always looking for movies in French to watch would be a lie because I don't actually do the work to find them. But like I actually do want to watch more movies in French. So this is awesome. I'm assuming it is in French, right? Or is it not?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, a well-received movie, like very well decorated, and number 2 on your list for best sequels. So it's a good pick. But no, I've not seen this movie. Justin, have you?
Haven't heard of it. It definitely would be a subtitle movie for me. Just
Same.
Can't speak the language, but it does sound like a really nice story. Well, minus the part that he's dying, but like how it basically can relate to reality, where you know, just because certain things have happened in your life doesn't mean that people can't be brought back together over certain situations. I mean, maybe ideally not one where you're dying, but it sounds like it's worth a watch. And I think Matt, you explained it really well, and it sounds really good in the sense that you don't have to see the first movie to see the second movie. Definitely one. It's like somehow if we were all together, sit me down and force me to watch it, because I think it would be one I'd like just throw the subtitles on so I know sort of what's going on.
I'll go with my next one. I have 3 left there. So my next one would be one that, in my making my list, I said I'd normally look for like ones that are better than the original. I don't think this is the case for this one. I prefer the original, but I think this is a worthy sequel in this franchise that I think like nose dove after this one, which would be Meet the Fockers, which I actually mentioned earlier in the pod. I love this movie. I think it's a great sequel to a very good comedy in Meet the Parents. And it mostly really works because of the characters in there. Like your Greg Focker, your Jack, I forget his last name, played by Robert De Niro. Jack Burns. Amazing character. And these 2 movies really, Parents and Fockers, introduced me to the comedic chops that a Robert De Niro has. And he does not miss with the training of Jinxie Cat. And then the juxtaposition of the 2 families of like the Burnses, who are like very like military and no nonsense. Even like the mom, I guess, and the wife would be, she's a little more free spirit and jives well with Greg's father. But then you got the Fockers, who are like really like free spirit and don't judge anybody, whereas like Jack Burns is very judgmental, keeps a small circle, pun intended, and just is untrustworthy of others around him. It's just a very fun movie, and if you haven't seen both Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers, strong recommend. I would say Meet the Fockers merits a solid place in like great comedy, especially sequels, where I feel like in comedies is where you're more likely to have a dip in future installments. I don't think that's the case with Meet the Fockers, so that's why I thought of it and included it on the list.
Great pick, Eric. I love this movie too. The strength of the movie, though, is Dustin Hoffman and Barbara Streisand playing Greg's parents. They're like, first of all, they're like Hollywood royalty, and they're amazing in the movie, and they just make the movie even better. All the funny situations that Greg gets in, all the jokes hit, they land. Unlike Little Fockers, the third one, but great pick, Eric. I recently went through the trilogy, so it's really fresh in my mind. Good pick. Glad to see it.
I'm just wondering, like, you just rewatched them. Would a movie like that, like, would that be able to be made nowadays, you think? Or is that, like, that kind of comedy a bit risque, I guess, for our day and age?
I think some of the stuff would be reevaluated for sure.
Okay, yeah.
There's like small little, I think you're right, Eric.
Okay. Anyways, great movie. So, recommend it.
I know. I've definitely heard of them. Haven't seen it, with the exception of like a couple of scenes here and there. But Eric, the way you described it, it sounds like it'll go on the list as well.
They're good.
I feel like I saw a couple scenes with Robert De Niro, and just his character seemed like should have given me the hint. Like, watch this movie. I think when it came out, I know we're the same age. I don't know if we were maybe necessarily too young or not of age to see the movie, but
I would say so.
I think maybe maybe now it'd be worth a revisit. Just the cast alone, it's not like something like A Horrible Bosses where it's like star-studded cast, but the movie is a little to say the least. This one sounds like it hits, minus the last one. So definitely has to be on the list to watch, because sounds like it's a family that dare we say we all know. Maybe we are that family, but definitely is going to go on the list. Has to go on the list.
Just quickly before you give your next pick, I remember when I went to see Shark Tale in theaters, Meet the Fockers was playing, I guess, a preview for them. Like it was one of the trailers, and I was young, like when we were in the theater to see Shark Tale, and I remember when the title for the movie Meet the Fockers popped up on screen, I literally said out loud to my mom, "Meet the Fuckers," and she was like, "I don't know, it's like Meet the Fockers." I remember that's a classic moment. We were there with like my mom's friend and like her kids too. Yeah, it's a good stuff. I'll never forget that. I did not swear much as a kid. I like to think I was not much of a potty mouth, as they say. No bars of soap in my mouth. But, yeah.
I mean,
that's it.
Their name is Focker,
yes,
as supposed to.
Exactly.
So, I think little Eric was... should be excused whether he was or not.
But yeah.
Good. All right. So I'll go to the second last one. Now, this last two on my list are kind of more mainstream and part of a series of movies. So definitely maybe not too adventurous, but I think one of them I find is one of the more underrated films in the series of movies, and the other one is rather quite known. So I'll get to maybe the one that I think is a bit underappreciated, and that would be Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Now, I know a lot of Harry Potter fans. I find this movie does not get as much love as the Philosopher's / Sorcerer's Stone or Prisoner of Azkaban or Goblet of Fire, and I think this one needs to get its due, because I think it's second year Harry. He's still stuck back home with his terrible aunt, uncle, and cousin, and so he's already used to like the wizarding world, and all of a sudden the man who brought him into it, Hagrid, is sort of like the main point of like, what is he the one who's associated with reopening the Chamber of Secrets? And I think just the visuals of it, the basilisk, I think of all the Harry Potter creatures, is probably my favorite. Like, cannot go wrong with a massive giant snake that essentially way back when Salazar Slytherin would basically feed the mudbloods to And hey, seeing 16-year-old Lord Voldemort was also like, I think probably the only time in the trilogy where you don't see him as like the very snake-like looking monster. So I think it's relatively still within the same realm, but I think it's also a little different in terms of the overall story and the way that that it was approached. And I feel like this movie needs to get its love. Of all the times you bring up Harry Potter movies, this one does not get enough love. So, how do you guys feel about the Chamber of Secrets?
You know, Matt.
I'll go. It is underappreciated because it doesn't get mentioned. It's never in like the top 3 or top 5 Harry Potter movies. Maybe because it's one of the longest running times for one. I will say though, Chamber of Secrets is super faithful to the book. Like it doesn't cut a lot of stuff out. Also because the book is one of the smaller ones, but it's a really faithful adaptation. Visually, it looks amazing. It enhances, but like we get more of the magical world in this movie. More stuff, like a lot of class footage. Like there's a lot going on in this movie. Maybe a little long compared to the other ones. But no, it's an amazing sequel. Still rewatchable to this day. All the movies are. It's a great franchise. Good pick, Justin.
So, Justin, you start off this episode saying Thor Ragnarok, one of the worst sequels. And now you go and put Chamber of Secrets in the best sequels. And you totally redeemed yourself. I love this movie. This is literally probably my favorite one of the whole series. Like, and again, super controversial, where most people rank it as one of the worst ones. I love Chamber of Secrets, honestly. It's that and Goblet of Fire for me are my 2 favorites for sure. Like, it's very close. But no, I love Chamber of Secrets. For me, I never have an issue with the running time. It's like 2 hours and like 40 minutes, I want to say. Long movie. Never feels that long for me. I feel like it flies by. There's always something going. You're always intrigued to find out what's happening. Why is Harry able to hear these voices? Who's behind it? It's like there's a murder mystery aspect to it. I love it when they're younger too. Like we've talked about in the pod so many times. We love to see kids overcome like unbelievable circumstances, which they do in the earlier movies, right? And then it's just funny you said like a 16-year-old Voldemort. It looks like he's like 24 years old, but like it's true. Like it is cool to see him at that point in his life. That actor does a great job as like the creepy, creepy but also like authoritative young wizard who's gonna go on to become like a formidable villain. Basilisk, unreal creature. That and the Hungarian horn tail would be my 2 favorites personally in terms of like really cool looking creatures, and Buckbeak as well, throw them in there. But if you're talking about like villains and like scary creatures, but yeah, God, I love this pick, man. Very surprised when you said sequels and Harry Potter. I did not know you would go with this one, but I'm a big Chamber of Secrets guy. Agreed, doesn't get talked about enough, or doesn't deserve the slander it gets. Yeah.
Do you want me to go with my last one now, or
sure.
do you want to do 2 and then one?
I guess I could do 2. I'll do 1, and then you, then me.
You still have. I have 1
Justin.
left. You have 2.
Yeah, I'll go. So I'll go again with a kind of mainstream one. I'll leave like my more personal one for last. So me again in this series, a lot of people favor another one. So maybe this is kind of like a Chamber of Secrets situation, if you will, but not really in the same way. But anyways, so my next one would be Toy Story 2. Love this movie. Most people go to Toy Story 3. The thing with me is I've only seen Toy Story 3 the one time in theaters. I remember liking it a lot, but I'll always fall back to that childhood nostalgia. I've always watched Toy Stories 1 and 2, and I think Toy Story 2 is an amazing sequel. Again, you get a lot of new characters in there. You get the bond between Woody and Buzz, which is really like the focal point of the original, where like they're both vying, or more so Woody is really vying for the top spot again for being Andy's number 1 toy, competing with Buzz. Love to see them just off the rip be homies, and like they just take everyone under their wing. They're both cool in their own way. Woody's got Bo Peep. He's just thriving, you know. And then Woody gets stolen. You got Al, that dirtbag nasty farm animal getting in the mix there, stealing him at a friggin' a garage sale. I think he throws the skateboard in the back of the garage to distract the mom, then takes the toolbox and just fucks off. Can't respect that at all. And then you got my guy Zurg in there, like your Darth Vader, Stinky Pete, Prospector, Jesse, Bullseye. You get the Woody backstory too, right? Like his lore. And the first one really focused on Buzz and like his universe and all that there, which I guess is more explored in the movie Lightyear, which I've not seen yet. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Toy Story 2 is the maybe Chamber of Secrets of this universe. Doesn't get talked about enough. And deserves a higher place maybe in the hierarchy that should be reorganized. So, yeah, Toy Story 2, that'd be my second to last pick.
What are your thoughts, Justin?
I think I would agree, especially with the Chamber of Secrets analogy. I feel like growing up, actually, I watched Toy Story 2 a lot more than I watched Toy Story 1. And Al, certainly an iconic villain. I want to say a modern day version of him guaranteed would be one of those like 40-year-olds who just sits at home and plays like maybe not to insult anyone who does play these games, but like your League of Legends, your World of Warcraft. Just like, it's almost, dare I say, unfortunately, like that is literally him. He's like that sort of guy who is like just stays at home, is always looking to make a quick buck, and the way he goes about it, it's like absolute despicable person, like stealing a kid's toy that the mom's like, no, this shouldn't be here, it's not for sale,
right? And
then just is like, distraction, and I'm gonna go sell this for $100 or however much it was at the time. And Zurg as well, with quite literally the very Darth Vader moment with Buzz. So that was a reference for the parents watching the movie, but absolutely incredible. I think especially for the time, like the animations were incredible, and so many good memories of young me watching this at the grandparents. So cannot disagree with this choice. Almost was going to be on the same list here, but I actually felt someone would take this movie, so I went with clearly Shrek 2 that only everyone took.
Nice, I love that.
Yeah. Phenomenal pick, Eric. It would have made my list too, but I only went with one animated movie. It's a masterpiece. It's the first movie I remember seeing at the theater. I think it was 7 when it came out. I remember me at the theater, like watching when Bullseye's chasing the airplane at the end at the airport. Like I remember sitting in my seat looking at that, watching that. I still remember that. Phenomenal movie, arguably the best of the trilogy or of the franchise. You guys said it all. It's a phenomenal movie. As is my number one.
I'll just say quickly, you just brought up an amazing scene that I don't want to gloss over. Bullseye keeping up with a plane going at top speed for takeoff is just objectively hilarious. Like how he's able to reach that kind of velocity on the runway, just burning his hooves on the tarmac is just gold.
Yeah, don't think of like the science behind that. How a toy somehow. Yeah. I mean, the toy is like animated, so I guess all logic there goes out the window. But it doesn't matter. It's a kids' movie. You just let yourself believe.
For sure, it's just funny. It's just funny.
It is funny.
Yeah.
So for my last pick, Justin's already mentioned this movie, or Eric has. It's Godfather Part 2.
Oh, okay, nice.
Arguably improves on the first one. I'm not of that opinion. I think the first one's better. But Godfather 2 is a masterpiece as well. It's one of the only sequels to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. After the first one won the Academy Award for Best Picture. It's crazy how back-to-back, right? It's the introduction of Robert De Niro, the greatest actor of his generation, in my opinion. He won an Academy Award for his role. The flashback sequences are the highlights of this movie. Everything about it's super compelling. Al Pacino's dynamite. You got some really like iconic moments in the movie. There's not much more to say. It's been said to death before. It's an amazing gangster movie. Super rich world. It's a long one, but there's always stuff going on. betrayals, backstabs, crazy murder scenes, the rise of Vito Corleone through those flashbacks. Godfather 2. I have nothing else to add on this movie. Have you guys seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it once. Like same with Godfather. I feel like maybe I've seen Godfather twice, but I remember from my initial thoughts of seeing Godfather 1 and then 2 not long after, I preferred the second one. But I would have to go back. That was years ago. Like I want to say 2016 or something when I was like in that phase of like ripping a lot of these classic movies. But I have to go back to it. But I do remember like the flashbacks were some of my favorite parts, and like obviously I remember like it's an iconic scene, like the Fredo stuff there is pretty classic. But no, that's one I gotta run back for sure. I gotta put like was it like 3 hours or so to the side and just like rip it once more. No, great pick, Matt. I had a feeling you would have Godfather 2 on here. I thought of it, and I'm glad to see it on the list.
Yeah, sadly, it's another one where it's like, nope, haven't seen it. Which I feel like of all the movies that have been brought up, it's like, watch this one, like cult classic, beloved by all, has been around forever. So definitely of all the movies, I guess I feel like the people would say, watch this one because it's withstood the test of time. Any movie, I don't know if any movie within like our generation has come close to sort of touching how good of a movie it was. I feel like we probably use references from it even still today that I'm completely unaware of, and I'd watch the movie and it's like, oh, this is why we do that. This is why we say that. Oh, this is why this is a meme. So, definitely what you guys said, there's a reason why it's regarded by critics as like the best of all time. So put this on the top of the list of all the movies that it's like, watch this, okay, watch this. So definitely great ender there, Matt. I'll transition to my last one, Eric, or you want to go?
No, yeah, go for it, Justin.
Okay, so I'll bring up one that maybe one can argue is probably one of the greatest films of our generation. And that would actually be the very well-known and classic Avengers Endgame.
Oh, okay, nice.
I mean, like I know the controversial take with the Thor movie early and then ending off with another one from that universe, but come on, like you bring everyone back together, eventually take down one of the most badass final bosses in Thanos. To see everyone's story come together, especially on the Captain America and Iron Man side of it. I know there's the debate. Me personally, Captain America, best Avenger. So maybe another controversial take people can fight me on. But to see his ending, especially too in the movie, looking at it from his end and a fan of Chris Evans as well, just eventually getting to be with the woman who he thought he had lost, being able to go back in time and then coming back as older version him, and them saying like, "Sir, are you gonna stay?" And just like, "Nah, I don't think I will." Iconic, absolutely iconic, and as well, Robert Downey Jr. with Iron Man, sort of sacrificing himself for the greater good, like, and for his daughter too, just absolutely incredible. The fight scene, epic. Nothing will ever touch the Lord of the Rings ones, like the Battle of Helm's Deep, I'll say. But this one is maybe the tier right below that. Like just how iconic it was, how on the edge of your seat it put me, and I think it really put a nice bow on those movies that we like. It brought up a generation like all of us, how we kind of went through like high school and university and college with all those movies. And I'll admit I haven't personally really seen any Marvel Universe things since then, but I feel like that's just more they're producing them like how iPhone introduces or Apple introduces new iPhones. It's just like one thing after another, and like, man, ain't nobody got time for all this stuff. Do you? I don't know. At least I don't. So what would you guys say?
Go ahead, Matt.
Okay, it's a good pick, Justin, because when Avengers Infinity War came out, the peak of superhero movies, in my opinion. Endgame it's almost just as good as Infinity War, in my opinion. Like, it's a great movie. It has some pacing issues, perhaps. But the epic moments, like I talked about in the last episode, the epic moments are like goosebump inducing. Like, I'll be rewatching this movie till I die because of those like heartbreaking moments and badass, like, all the hairs on like stand up, like full nerd chills throughout the movie. Good pick, Justin.
Yeah, I mean, the MCU hasn't been the same since Endgame, right? Like, you change again the hierarchy of how everything looks by like losing your Iron Man, your Captain America, and in a very emotional fashion and legendary fashion for both of them. It's honestly, while the first time I saw it, anyways, the journey to the end was like not what I was expecting, and like how you get the time jump and you're not really sure how they're gonna go back, how going back in time is gonna work. It all does work, and it gets done perfectly, honestly. So it's a great sequel, perfect culmination of like 30 or 20 some movies. I think so. We're on the last episode. We're actually debating putting Endgame in like the top 5 of all MCU, and it was Matt and I making the list together. So we both had movies that we were pushing for and didn't want to like concede on one of them. So Endgame actually ended up becoming in like the A tier, below the S. So there is a place for it, clearly. Like, Matt was pushing for it more than me, but I do love it. I think it's an amazing movie. It's there's just like, for me, like I said, there's like, I'm a Ragnarok guy. Like, Matt wanted Ragnarok out, I wanted it in. So it all comes back to your worst sequel and now your best movie. It's all tied together perfectly, and I'm on the outside just fighting for Ragnarok on my own out here. But no, I have nothing bad to say really like about Endgame. It's an amazing movie and a great pick.
No, I feel like the comments will be more for you than for me. But hey, like, you never know. And I honestly think, I don't know about you guys, but just the way it's ended, it's almost like how it's another thing like a Godfather 2. How are you possibly going to top this? And yeah, they've been pumping out content like McDonald's, almost just like one after another. But like, is any of it really ever going to touch that? Or at least maybe the whole Marvel universe can, maybe is that like maybe has Marvel peaked? Is there an opportunity for DC even to sneak it? Probably not the way the DC movies have been, but who knows?
Man, I don't know. We're starting to see, honestly, the fall of Marvel, and to not go down into this too much there, because we did mention it, like how Marvel has been the last few years, like on the last episode there. I'm actually going to see The Flash on Friday. Very excited to see how that's going to shape out, because that's kind of like the start of what the new DC era is going to look like. So we'll see what they can pump out with that one. But yeah, no, Marvel like has not been the same since Endgame, and that's like, it cannot be denied. So you're not missing that much, man. Like, there's been a couple of good movies, but overall, like, it's been a lot of swinging and misses in my opinion. And now, for my last movie, it's just funny how I'm gonna go toe to toe here with Godfather 2 and Avengers Endgame, and the movie I'm about to cite is like has no business being mentioned in the same breath as these other two, but I still will, because for me it's one of my favorite sequels. I think that, again, this would be, in my opinion, better than the OG, which I love as well. Another comedy movie, Harold and Kumar Escape from Guantanamo Bay. Amazing movie, honestly. I think it falls in the back end of this golden era of comedy movies. I think I cited it as like my number one comedy movie when we did our comedy movie pod in like 2019. And it's still up there for me, honestly. I don't know if it'd be number one. Like, I think having re-seen Superbad lately, like, that'd probably jump it. But Superbad ain't a sequel, so I'm not mentioning it. Guantanamo Bay, amazing movie, honestly. Does not stop to take a breath whatsoever throughout this entire movie. It's like a classic, like, stoner buddy comedy movie where they hop from one spot to the next on like this wild night of misadventures, and like are put in these impossible situations and crazy things happen, and you're just all for it the whole time. This is a movie that would not be made nowadays, though. Very, I guess, inappropriate, but I don't know. It's a funny movie. Like it's a different era of comedy where we're able to express more creatively what we thought. I guess I don't know, but I think this is a fantastic movie. And you got Rod Corddry in there playing Secretary Fox. One of my favorite. Almost drafted him in our comedy movie characters draft, but I decided to pander to a different demographic by going with Lieutenant Frank Drebin in the 5th round. And but Secretary Fox is right there, amazing character. And yeah, John Cho and Cal Penn are amazing in this movie. These two movies, Guantanamo Bay and White Castle for Harold and Kumar, non-stop laugh out loud humor. Strong recommend. If you haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it in a while, I would get on that. Seen this movie.
Well, I've seen this movie once, and yeah, I like Harold and Kumar too, but I've only seen it once, Eric, and frig, I can't even remember half of it. So you know what? This is the incentive to rewatch it. So thank you. I remember really liking it though. So good pick.
Yeah.
This one, thankfully, I have seen, so I can properly comment on this one. I think it does a pretty good job, I would say, of sort of straddling that line of like acceptable and not acceptable. I think as long as you go into it, like there's going to be some offensive comedy. So, if you're going to, if you got to go in expecting that there's going to be some really touchy subjects. And I think as long as you go in with that mindset, you should be all good to go. Like, I think a lot of comedies, especially back then to now, in some ways really have not aged well, even with those who maybe have the appetite for it. But honestly, those kind of movies, they're right up my alley. So yeah. I got no complaints with it. I think there lots of laughs throughout. And the overall story as well, it's like, more than just sort of your dumb stoner comedy. Like there's actually like some proper storyline behind it, and there's some dramatic moments too. It's not just like a straight dumb comedy. So if you're able to take offensive jokes, I give both that and White Castle, a strong recommendation to the audience. So
yep. Love that stamp of approval. And yeah, like you said, there's a beautiful love story in the mix as well there about like rekindling with his ex-girlfriend who's about to marry another guy, and he's trying to swoop in and steal her back, like just your traditional love story, right? But everything that is supposed to happen happens, and it's a hell of a ride, if I do say so myself. Pardon my French, but yeah, good list, everybody. Yeah, we got a couple of submissions from the people. So my mom submitted for bad sequels, Sex and the City 2, apparently is horrible, and good, a lot of the same ones as me. Toy Story 2, Shrek 2, and then Knives Out, Glass Onion, which I also really loved. I thought it was a great sequel to Knives Out. I think Knives Out is better. It edges it out by a razor thin margin. Pun intended. Yes. But no, Glass Onion is a great sequel. I'm looking forward to seeing the next movie in that franchise. Hopefully they can keep it going, get like another strong ensemble cast, and yeah. So
I agree.
Those ones, and then we got some more from Klasin, former guest Klasin Ud. So she said, this is another one too I love. Cheaper by the Dozen 2. Great sequel, in my opinion, as well. Avatar 2 and Spy Kids 2. And then for worst, she said Red Dragon from like the Hannibal Lecter universe.
Oh, I disagree with that. Wow. No, but the for the best, I agree with everything she said. Spy Kids 2, never thought that'd be mentioned tonight, but
maybe even worse. But I'm just kidding. I don't remember the Spy Kids movies at all, honestly.
Good throwbacks, I will say.
Yeah.
There was one in there. I think it was the Red Dragon or Redragon. Don't think I've actually heard of that, but sounds like it's worth a watch for one and two, or at least two is. So maybe see one before you see two.
So for Red Dragon, so that's like Silence of the Lambs, right?
Okay.
It's a prequel to that actually. So it's
Oh, okay.
but it came out after. It's with Edward Norton and Hannibal Lecter, Anthony Hopkins, Ray Fiennes, I want to say as well. He plays the other serial killer, the villain there.
That sounds worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember disliking that. I read the book actually. I loved the book, and then the movie. Francis Dollarhide, I want to say, is his name. Right? Yeah. Oh yeah. Let's go.
Yeah. Ray Fiennes. Yeah.
Ray Fiennes. Yeah. Me, honestly, I was looking at for worst sequels. Hannibal, I was considering putting in there. That's a bad movie, in my opinion.
That's a bad one, yeah.
Anthony Hopkins, like for lack of a better word, kills it in that movie. But other than that, like when he's not on the screen, it's just brutal. I want to say like Philip Seymour Hoffman is in that, or is he in Red Dragon? I'm just getting confused here. I don't know. But
Red Dragon.
Red Dragon, yeah. So that's a pretty good cast, actually. But anyway, yeah, Hannibal, I mean, there's just nothing going on other than when Anthony Hopkins on the screen. But,
yeah.
And yeah, like, how do you follow up Silence of the Lambs? 5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, in my opinion. Amazing movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. All right. Well, good list, guys. I don't have that much. We can do like a quick random recommendations. Been pretty busy out here. Like I haven't been able to see or like watch that much. Do you guys have anything that you want to recommend to the people, like general? Justin, do you have anything you want to throw out to the good listeners of Easy Conversations?
Nothing really in terms of shows or music, unfortunately. Just enjoying the nice weather out here. We're trying to get out to as many Jays games as I can. You know, that time of the year, whether they play like my hockey team or not is a whole nother issue. But I mean, they redid the Rogers Center, or the Sky Dome, as us hardcore fans call it. So it's honestly such a good vibe, the stadium. So trying to get out to those as much as I can. And hey, it's the getting close to the time of the year where there's going to be good, consistent weather. So hit up your patios, hit up your outdoor activities. I always say every year I'm going to try to learn how to golf.
Oh man, do it.
I mean, hey, if I hit the ball in the air, I consider it a successful shot. But I know a few of my buddies, if they listen to this, they'll just have a laugh, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, bring out your putter onto the green." There's a funny backstory I could tell you off camera than that, but suffice to say, I'm not a golfer. So at the very least, hit the driving range and work on that. Just more outdoor activities, the better. So. Anyone that enjoys any kind of outdoor activity, whether it's golfing, swimming, going for a hike, going to patio, going to concerts or sporting events, hit those up because it's beginning of that season, I would say.
So I'll just say my recommendation, going off what you just said there about going outside. Well, you would have to be inside to do this, but it's about going outside, which would be the Netflix documentary series Full Swing, which is the same production company that did like the Formula One that's very popular on Netflix, coverage of like the whatever Formula One stuff. I haven't watched it, but Full Swing is like obviously the PGA equivalent. Very good stuff. So I've seen 6 episodes of the 8 so far. It's taken me so long to watch them all just because I watched a few, then I stopped, then I come back to it. But now I'm actually getting back in the swing of things, and very good. Like it's a good way to get like familiar with prominent PGA Tour players and a few lesser known ones as well. Like there's quite a few that I didn't know, and it's just cool to find out about like their day-to-day and their story about how they got to the tour, what they deal with on the personal side of things. Like a lot of very touching stories in there. Some not so much, for sure. Like Brooks Koepka, for example. He's kind of a villain on the tour, so naturally I cheer for him. But a lot of people aren't a fan, so like you see, it's just interesting there to see like how they're like in their lives and whatever. They're so Full Swing. Like if you want, like I said, learn a bit more about some golfers and stuff, and it makes you want to golf, or it makes me want to golf anyway when I watch it there. So it's cool. So Full Swing on Netflix, 8 episodes. I'd recommend that.
Yeah, I heard good things about that show, actually. My dad really likes it.
Nice.
I'll just recommend one TV show, actually, and I haven't finished it yet, but I'm going to be talking about this show in another episode. I'm hoping, Eric. I know you've seen it. I'm finally jumping on the bandwagon, and I'm almost finished, like I just said. But I recommend Ted Lasso. It's a great show.
Let's go.
Should have watched it. Should have watched it when it came out. Definitely going to talk about it some more. I'm just recommending it tonight.
Okay.
Really, really, really solid show.
Nice. I was not sure where you were going with that, honestly. For some reason, my mind right away went to Attack on Titan. But you know what? I'm happy to hear you're on the Ted Lasso train. I've yet to see season 3. I'm going to get like an Apple TV trial and then restart it, watch it with Andy, and then we'll just watch season 3. Well, 1 to 2, and then 3 for me the first time there. So then we'll rip that. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how it wraps up. Like, season 3 is the last one too, right? So only 3 seasons. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it ends. So nice. And I'm glad. Are you enjoying it right now? Just liking it, or?
Oh yeah, I'm almost done season 3. It's
Okay. You're like almost.
almost
okay.
Almost done season 3. I'm enjoying it. That's all I'm gonna say. We'll probably talk about it when you're done season 3. I'm guessing.
Okay. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let's go. Yeah. Okay. Nice. All right.
A good spot to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think so. Been a solid, good length for this episode. Justin, again, killer on here. Always a great time having you on. Good lists, everybody. And Justin, any final notes for the listeners?
Well, first, thanks for having me on again, Eric and Matt. Longtime listener. I know try to stay up to date on the mall. Still actually got to hit up that Marvel one, the last one, and probably be like, oh well, maybe I didn't think about that, and maybe I should have with Ragnarok. But no, great time having me on. Always good to diversify because you know me, I can talk sports all day long, and I think right now is the time to take a big breath because we're getting that in a couple of weeks with the draft and free agency. So, you know, to almost like train up for that, but but take it easy. So really appreciate you guys having me on. Love doing this stuff. You guys always pump out great content, IMO, and always love being a part of these episodes. And then otherwise, hope you and the audience, everyone's doing well. You know, take care. Still basically over the world getting flipped upside down, but it's almost like time's a blur to me now. I like to think back. So, you know, take advantage of all the outdoor stuff while we can, and you know, continue to stay safe and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, no, well said, Justin, and thank you again. Kind words. But yeah, no, I agree. The draft coming up, I'm very excited for that. Matt, great episode as per usual as well. Any final notes for the listeners?
Yeah, thank you, Justin, first of all, for coming on. You were great, as usual. To the listeners, thank you for listening. I appreciate every one of you. Hope you're having a great summer right now, and yeah, have fun.
Well said, Matt. So yeah, thanks a lot, everybody, for listening. Stay tuned for episodes dropping every 2 Mondays. Continue to enjoy your summer and the warm weather. And yeah, peace.